Haget Erev Shabbos, everybody. Welcome to Jerry's Corona Contemplations for Pashas Acharei Kedoshim. Yes, we still find ourselves in the Corona debacle. It seems to be lightening up. Things seem to be getting better. We hope that that will be the case as we move forward. So let's take a look at current events in light of the Parsha. This past week was Yom Ha'atzmaut, the 72nd birthday of the modern state of Israel. And the Parsha tells us in Acharei Mot, in the first Parsha, the famous Yom Kippur Mincha davening, right? It says, Kamasei Eretz Mitzrayim asher yeshaftem ba lo ta'asu, Kamasei Eretz Canaan asher ani mevi etchem shama lo ta'asu, uvechukotehem lo telechu. Like the deeds of Mitzrayim you shall not do, and like the land of Canaan, the deeds of Canaan, that I am taking you there, you shall not do. Which begs the obvious question, what is the Torah talking about? They haven't been to Canaan yet to do like the deeds of Canaan. Of course, the Torah is saying not to act in the way of the Yoshvei Haaretz, the five nations that they are going to conquer because they are pagan and they do all sorts of disgusting things. But obviously, there is something much deeper going on here. And my friend Chavruta and Rebbe Rav Moshe Lichman Shlita, I believe it's the Kliyuker that he quotes in his landmark Sefer Eretz Yisrael in the Parsha Kimei Torah Teitzei Sion, talks about the fact that when the Torah says Kamasei Eretz Mitzrayim, it's talking about the way the Bnei Yisrael behaved at the time of Yetzias Mitzrayim, meaning what? As we know, only 4/5 of the Bnei Yisrael left Mitzrayim. Oh, rather, only 1/5, 20% of the Bnei Yisrael left Mitzrayim. The other 4/5 did not go. And why didn't they go? They died during the Makkah of Choshech. And why is that? Because, as we've said in previous shiurim, at the time, the plagues, at the time that the plague started, Dam, Tzfardei, Akinam, already the Shibud had ended, and the Bnei Yisrael were living in Mitzrayim. They were no longer under slavery. And they started becoming very comfortable. They started building nice big homes. They were living amongst their Egyptian neighbors. The Egyptians were actually afraid of them, so they treated them very well. And they decided they're going to build a Torah community on both sides of the Nile. And they weren't going anywhere. Moshe is a radical, and these people, they're going to ruin everything we started building here. We don't want to go. We're right here in the Eretz Zavat Chalav Udvash, as they said during the time of Korach. So they weren't going anywhere. And what's the Masa Eretz Canaan? The Masa Eretz Canaan, of course, is referring to the Chet HaMeraglim. All right, the Chet HaMeraglim, when we know the whole story of the spies, and they said there's no way they could conquer it and that they shouldn't go anywhere, and we know how that ended rather poorly. So when the Torah says Kamasei Eretz Mitzrayim and Kamasei Eretz Canaan, what it's referring to is denigrating the whole idea of Aliyah, or denigrating or speaking Lashon Hara against Eretz Yisrael. Very, very important message for Yom Ha'atzmaut, even though there's lots of things we can complain about. I mean, there's no shortage of things to no shortage of things to be unhappy about, whether it's this ministry or that ministry, or 4 elections or 12 elections. Plenty of things to complain about, but we don't do it. Why? Because we know that when one speaks negatively about Eretz Yisrael, it can have very disastrous effects. So let's take that to heart on Yom Ha'atzmaut, the week of the 72nd birthday of the modern state, and not do as they did at the time of Yetzias Mitzrayim for those that chose to stay. And of course they stayed, but in the ground. And to always, even if you have shortcomings and things that you're not all that happy about, keep it to yourself. Talk to your therapist. Talk to your Rav. And certainly don't post it on Facebook. Not a real, and va'ani barosham. I'm guilty as charged. Chatasi avisi pashati. I'm not saying that I am without sin here. Very far from it. So of course I'm speaking to myself first. The Torah says further in the big double parsha this week. And this is Kedoshim to you. The second parsha this week is Parshat Kedoshim. I heard from one of my Rabbanim back when I was living in Twin Rivers, New Jersey. This is going back, over 20 years. Well, much more than 20 years, probably close to 30 years. Rav Aaron Gruman Shlita. And he's an absolutely phenomenal speaker. I always said, Harav, you should get on Torah anytime, because I once wanted to set up his set the Yomud up with a tape recorder in it. See, it shows you how long it was ago. Tape recorder. Well, on a timer so that I could tape his Shabbos speeches. But one of his most famous, I think anyway, Kedoshim Tihiyu. Rabbi Sai, this is not a suggestion. This is not a recommendation. You should be holy. No, that's not what the Torah is telling us. The Torah is telling Am Yisrael, you are holy. You are holy. It's a fact. It's immutable. There's nothing you can do about it. Now, what sticks to Kedusha more than it sticks to anything else? Tumah. Kedusha is the most susceptible thing to Tumah. How do we know this? Look at the laws of Tumah and Tara. There's a Rishon, there's a Sheni, there's a Shlishi. Only Kudshim can become a Revi'i. Right? Kudshim, meaning Karbanot, which are called Kudshim, are the most susceptible thing to Tumah. Am Yisrael is very susceptible to Tumah. How do we know? Well, just look at the news. Anything that Bnei Yisrael do, anything the Jews do, it doesn't matter what it is, it can have the greatest intentions of the world, right? It gets picked up and it's smeared all over the New York Times. Yamach Shemam. I'm sorry. Or the WAPO, the slime in the compost, or any newspaper, whether it's the whatever it is, whether it's on Facebook or Twitter, anything we do will be scrutinized, and even the slightest misstep will be picked up. Why? Kedoshim Tihiyu. We are holy, and we have to realize that. And when we behave in a certain way, where the mayor of New York, I will leave off the suffix, you could fill in your own, has to go ahead and single out Am Yisrael because they're not listening to the Hanchayot, to the instructions regarding coronavirus, Tzizachin Vei. Now, I'm not saying that he's a tzaddik, very far from it, right? But why give them a tool? Why to put cherev biyadam lahargenu? Why? Kedoshim Tihiyu, we have to be so careful. Again, va'ani barosham. I have to be more careful too. We all do. But this Parshat Kedoshim, is telling us how to behave. What's the Avnei Tzedek Umoznei Tzedek, Rabbi Isai? We have to have honest weights and measures. What does that mean? That you have to have a scale and make sure you're not with the weights that they're. Yes, it means that. But what it means is pricing. When someone comes to you right? Don't have one price for this one and one price for that one. If you have this accent, it's one price. If you have that accent, it's another price. Any of us, we know what I'm talking about. I won't go into it. That's Moznei Tzedek va'avnei Tzedek, right? You have to be yashar, straight. You can't cut corners when it comes to building. You can't say you're using one material and use another material. Even so, when you're weighing oil to put in a person's jar, the Gemara tells us you're supposed to put a little bit extra just to make sure that you didn't shortchange the person. V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. Treat people the way you would want to be treated. Is it really that difficult? Is it really that difficult? V'chai bohem. This, if there's anything we learn from coronavirus, Rabbi Say, v'chai bohem, we are supposed to live by v'lo she'yamut behem. Rashi says that we have to live with the mitzvot. When it's dangerous to make a minyan, that's not being frum, that's being krum. V'chai bohem, the Torah tells us. You have to live by the mitzvot. If you're putting people in danger, that's not v'chai bohem. That's the opposite of being frum. That's being krum. It's being crooked. This is what this parsha teaches us, how to be a mensch. And we've said so many times that in order to be a kli makabel Torah, you first have to be a mensch. How do you be a mensch? You do what it says in this week's parsha. Tzedakah, the Torah tells us about shikha, peah, leket, right? That you leave for the poor person. You make sure you take care of those that are less fortunate. Don't steal. Pay your workers on time. That a person should ever have to come to a boss and say, you haven't paid me in 2 weeks? What? How? That's one of the first things. You have a pay schedule, you have to pay the person on time. Don't take advantage of people when the Torah says, Lo sekal el cheresh, v'lifnei iver lo sitein michshol. It doesn't mean that you put a block in front of a blind person or that you yell at someone that can't hear. Yes, it means that too. But what it means is if someone's at a disadvantage and you know you can get one over on them because they don't exactly know the way things are done, and you take advantage of that, that's lifnei iver lo sitein michshol. That's what you're not. That's not being a mensch, right? Don't exact vengeance. Don't carry a grudge. Very, very hard to do. Someone did something wrong to you and you want to try to get that person. You're going to get him. Wait, that's exactly what the Torah tells you not to do. Whatever. You speak to the person, you air your grievances, and you move on in life. Respect the elderly, it says in this week's Parsha. Mipnei seva takum. Does that mean getting up on a bus and giving your seat to the elderly person? Of course it means that. But it also means to speak with derech eretz. Honesty in business. We have to, we mentioned about the weights and measures, but this is when it says Kedoshim to you, we are being watched by Hashem and by man. It says that the Kohen Gadol was not allowed to have on the priestly vestments, he wasn't allowed to have cuffs on the sleeves or hems. Why? Because so when he did the Truma Salishka, when he took the shekels from the box to use for the Beit HaMikdash, that they shouldn't be able to say, oh, the Kohen put a couple of coins in his hem or a couple of coins up his sleeve. Would the Kohen Gadol do that? No, of course not. Certainly not any of the good ones. I mean, we had a couple of winners, but I mean, no, but you're not even allowed to have it so that people shouldn't even be able to say it. Not that he would do it, chas v'shalom, but that it's even possible that people would think. That's how careful we have to be in our behavior, and that's what this week's parsha is telling us. This parsha also tells us, Ish Imo va'aviv tiro v'es shabsosai tishmaru. It also says in this week's parsha, as Yom HaShabbos Tishmar, as Yom HaShabbos Tishmar I'm sorry, as Shabsosai Tishmaru, I'm sorry, I'm not seeing well today. As Shabsosai Tishmaru Mikdashi Tiro. That you should keep the Shabbos and fear the Mikdash. And a person has to fear not in the literal sense, but have awe of his parents, and he also has to keep the Shabbos. Why is the Shabbos brought out here on both these things? Because what's the most natural thing for a person is to respect their parents that brought them into the world. But if their parents tell them to be machal Shabbos, chas v'shalom, no, Shabbos comes first. And we've said in previous parshiot, Binyan HaMikdash. What's more important than Binyan HaMikdash? To respect and fear Hashem's, the Makom HaMikdash? Yep, but Shabbos comes first. In all these parshiot that we've been seeing, Hashem is very careful to show us the importance of Shmirat Shabbat. Why? Because, as we've said earlier, the Shabbat is what links us to the chain of Jewish tradition. It shows us that we are, when we give edut, when we give witness on Shabbat by our actions, that we are recognizing that Hashem created the world, that Hashem is the force with the capital F, right? And that Hashem chose Am Yisrael to be his Mamlechet Kohanim V'Goy Kadosh, Kedoshim to you. And we do that by Zochar et Yom HaShabbat L'Kadsho, et Shabtotai Tishmaru, Ish Aviv Ve'imo Tira'u, V'et Shabtotai Tishmaru. Rabbi say Shabbos hi Makar HaBracha. Shabbos is the source of all blessing. Again, don't roll on Shabbos. Not this week either. Everything's closed. Another wonderful Shabbos to spend at home with your families. Take on one more aspect of Shabbos. Agit Erev Shabbos, everybody. Shabbat Shalom. Have an absolutely wonderful Shabbos. Stay safe. Enjoy. Have a great weekend, a safe weekend, a wonderful Shabbos with your family. See you back here next week. Take care.